Hi guys, welcome back to Our Maine Homestead. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about how I've been tackling our faux shiplap walls, some of the tools that I use in that process, and address some of the things that I had a really hard time finding out before I got started with this project. With this project, buying the shiplap already pre-done can be quite expensive, and so what we decided to do was just to get 4x8 sheets of 1/2-inch plywood. We got 1/2-inch CDX from our local hardware store, and we just cut the 4x8 sheet into 8-inch planks, so they were 8-inch by 8 feet. We just used our DeWalt table saw to do that. It's kind of the standard shiplap sizes are going to be either 8-inch or 6-inch, just depending on how wide you want your shiplap planks to be. But I went with the 8-inch just because I liked the wider look of it. You also have to keep in mind when you're calculating how much plywood you need to take into consideration that whether you're doing the 8-inch planks or the 6-inch planks, that your last piece on each sheet of plywood is going to be smaller than that amount just because of the amount that the blade takes off. So after I got all of my planks cut from my sheet of plywood, then I just laid them out and actually used this oscillating hand sander to sand all of the edges just to make them smoother, take off any little pieces that kind of splintered or anything like that. And then it was time to brush it off. I just used a little like hand broom to just get off any sawdust or dust from the sander or from being cut on the table saw. And then it was time to get to work painting. So let me show you guys some of the supplies that I used to paint. So some of the supplies that I've been using to paint my planks are, of course, a paint can opener, a canister, and of course, like I said, I am in the process of doing all this, so it is a wet paint stirrer there. And then I've actually been using the Valspar paint and primer in the color white ash. I also have my paintbrush here, which a neat trick that I learned is that in between painting, all you have to do is just put your wet paintbrush in a plastic baggie and then wrap it in tin foil, and it actually stays nice and soft and wet and doesn't dry out and get crusty, and you can reuse it over and over and over again. So before starting this project, we did do a couple of practice runs with some of the paint, and we did a whitewash, a single coat, and a double coat just to see what it looked like. We hung them up in the cabin and let them stay there for over a 24-hour period just so that we could see what it looked like in the natural light, at nighttime, that sort of thing, and gauge which one we liked the best, and we decided that we liked the single coat the best. During our practice pieces, could see that the whitewash was just a little too light and the double coat was a little too much. It was just too thick, and so we really wanted to just be able to see the wood grain kind of come through the painted area, and so that's why we chose a single coat. So another thing to note about the hand sander and using it during your project for that step in between the cuts and the painting is that I decided about halfway up to this point that this step wasn't completely necessary for me. I didn't mind kind of having the rough, thick looking rough edges. And so if that's something that's important to you, to have kind of a smooth finish, then you'll want to make sure that you do this step. But if you're kind of like me and you're more rustic and kind of rough around the edges, then it's not something that you necessarily have to do. So after my boards have been painted and dried, then I just need to go inside, do some measurements, come out here, mark some boards, and then cut them to length with the miter saw. Putting the boards up on the wall is actually a pretty simple process, and the only tools that you need are a couple of quarters, some finishing nails. I have the 4D 1.5 inch finishing nails, and then a hammer. As you can see, I'm just tacking these boards or planks straight to the studs. I don't have a finished wall behind the boards. A lot of people will put the Faux Shiplap planks directly onto a finished drywall, but that's not what I'm doing here. I'm just applying it straight to the studs, and I haven't noticed that it's been an issue at all, and I'll explain why in a little while. As you could tell from when I was just putting up those wall boards, that I do like to stagger the seams so that it's not all gonna have one straight line up and down the entire wall where all of the planks meet each other end to end. I'm just using the quarter for spacing, as you could see, and that provides just enough space to distinguish the planks from each other and to show a distinct line in between them. But it is not big enough that you're actually going to see the studs through the gaps. That's one reason why some people choose to paint a wall white, a finished drywall white, and then place the planks on those because they don't want to be able to see through the gaps. And like I said, from my personal experience, putting them directly onto the studs without the finished wall behind them doesn't show anything through the gaps that is not aesthetically pleasing. Using the 1/2 inch plywood also allows you to hang things on it. I don't have to actually put in nails directly into the studs in order to hang things like a coat rack or a clock or shelving or something like that. So that's one reason that we definitely like the 1/2 inch plywood planks. And as you could see as well, I actually have chosen to leave the finishing nails untouched afterwards. Some people will go behind their project and just put a little white paint or something over the finishing nails just so that you can't see them and they're not exposed. But I kind of like them exposed because it makes it a little bit more rustic and just gives it some extra texture and color. I hope you guys really enjoyed watching how I do the Faux Shiplap walls. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section and I'll get back to you ASAP. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, and follow us on Instagram at Our Maine Homestead. I hope you guys have a great day and happy homesteading.